Hi friends! For this year, my goal is to read 100 books. I used to go through books so quickly because I had a lot of time, but now with work and stuff, like there's only so much you can read. Okay, this is so heavy. Okay, but this is the stack that I want to talk about today. I made a list actually because I read some ebooks. So one of the first books I talked about in my previous video is this one, and How to Stand Up to a Dictator. I thought it was really good. Yeah, okay, next. Actually, I didn't give you guys the whole reason why I had to read this one first was because, like I said in the last video, one of my friends said that my book really read off like this book, but also Jason said that my book reads off like J.D. Vance's memoir. I thought that was interesting, and I wouldn't say that I have any type of ideas that really coincide with his, but so I really wanted to give his book a read. I read a ebook that I found on the internet. I'm sorry, I don't like supporting people that don't really deserve it, so but I did read it, and I think Jason makes a lot of sense as to how my book kind of reads off like it, because the way it's formatted, number one, his chapters aren't long. It's a pretty short book, I would say. It didn't take me that long to finish. It's relatable where it's like, it's pretty emotional, and he also starts off with like a little like disclaimer, like blah blah blah. So I think like the format and like whatever is the same, but I wouldn't say they're the same thing, but I can see where that came from. I also didn't exactly like his book because of like knowing what I know about him from like media and like whatever. He wrote this book I think prior to really like getting involved in politics, so I'm not sure if there was like a big idea change there, but the general gist is he does talk about growing up poor, but I feel like reading that book, it also kind of foreshadowed how he became the way he is today, because more or less in the book, yes, he talked about systems, but he didn't really focus it on systems. By the end of the book, the whole vibe he gave was like, I was able to do it, so you guys should be able to. And it's really frustrating because in the book, he didn't really talk about the systems that he benefited from. Yes, he like mentioned some things, but he didn't go in depth. And for him to right now like burn the bridges that got him to where he is today, I just couldn't really sit right with that. I don't know. I just didn't find it as fruitful. And so during that time, I was also reading another book. It's called Evicted. I have not finished. I think it paints a better picture of what's at work, like system-wise. I feel like in America, but there's like a kill line that 就是斩杀线. That's the term that's going around in Chinese TikTok about. In America, it's like, unfortunately, after you fall off this financial cliff, it's really hard to get back up. And I think Evicted does a really good job in really giving you the whole picture. It's not that one person made one mistake, it's because, you know, one mistake led to something else and led to something else. There's no safeguard in place, and how the culture is here, like compared to like China per se, you don't have family to fall back on. So anyways, I think that book is much more interesting. Haven't finished it. I lost my page and got distracted, but it's really good. I do plan on finishing it. There's another on my list called Nomandland. I just heard it's a good book. So like, I think poverty is a topic that kind of gets pushed back, forgotten, and it's kind of invisible. I feel like everybody kind of turns a blind eye to it because there's also like there's so much going on, but I feel like it's a very, very important problem, and it traces back to literally, you know, the whole system. And don't get me started. The next book that I read was The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. The reason why I read this book was because I got bored at work, and my job, like there's a learning website, and the books they can offer aren't exactly the most interesting, but this one I actually read. It talks about how to lead, but I think also like I really like the definition that he wrote about work politics. It goes, politics is where people choose their words and actions based on how they want others to react rather than based on what they really think. And I think that applies to, you know, politics. Anyways, but I think it was a really interesting read about just like leadership, but I don't I don't think it was exactly the most useful. The other book that I started during work because it was on the learning site, it's called Great Myths of the Brain, but I feel like it's a little dated. It kind of provides you more actual stuff about things and myths that people had prior. I feel like a lot of these myths don't really exist as much as they did prior about the brain because updated research and stuff. So the next one I have the book for. Okay, this one, everything is I can't pronounce this goddamn word. Everything is Tuberculosis. Yes, it's John Green's most recent book. I bought it pretty much as soon as it came out. I think this book is a good read. Got me crying at the end. What moved me the most is where he pretty much, no spoilers, but he like starts the book off about a little boy with this disease, and then he also ends talking about why he cares about this disease so much. It's because of that one little boy that he met, you know? That's exactly what makes me care about things. I feel like it's really hard for us to really understand the problem at a bigger scale. I think I think there's a book about it too, about like a book. I think it's on my reading list. There's so many books on my reading list. It's called The Expanding Circle. It's about how it's hard for people to really feel connected to a problem or issue until it becomes very personal. I feel like sometimes it's an individual that is facing an issue that we get to know, and then you care about the issue more. I feel like it's kind of like that. I feel like with a lot of issues, it feels, I guess, like far. I don't know. I think that's what the book is about, or something along those lines. Yeah, I just like that a lot about this book. I feel like that really applies to a lot of things where it's like, it's not that I care about, you know, saving the world or whatever. I don't think I have the ability to do that, but like it's people that I meet, it's people that I interact with, it's people that make me care about so many problems that are so much bigger than I am. And I think he does a very good of explaining just that, how important this problem is. It is a big problem, and like every other problem. But 下一个, what did I read? 下一个, oh, this one, Educated. So I had this book for a very long time, and I think, what can I say? I kind of put off on reading it. I don't know, I just never gotten around to it. It's been hanging in my bookshelf for a long while, and I was like, you know what, today's the day. And so I read it, and it was really good. It's about this girl who grew up Mormon, but also like her dad. It's mostly her dad, and then later gets to her mom, but he definitely had his issues and was very paranoid, and so she didn't really get to have a real education growing up. But slowly, like, doors opened, and she got to see exactly how much of a privilege it is to be educated and how important it is to be educated. Don't read J.D. Vance's book, read this one. Like, there's so many other books that you could be reading. I just read it because I just wanted to know, because I'm curious. But I felt like J.D. Vance's memoir didn't give me as much substance as other books of the same. Like, she also grew up poor, but she paints a very different photo, and there's a lot of things to ponder in this book too. I think it provides a good view of how complicated it is to dismantle exactly what you were taught and what you thought was the truth, and how people stay with those thoughts. Again, I don't think it's anyone's fault of not being able to get educated. I think education is such a privilege, but also, again, I think it's very necessary. I think this book does a really good job of showing you just how important it is to seek education. It was a little gory at times. People get hurt, and she described it in detail. So, like, side note, her parents didn't believe in going to the doctors and stuff, so like they got hurt a bunch in this book, okay? And personally for me, it was a little gory. Fair warning, okay? But other than that, it's not like the whole book. It's just like here and there. It's like, that sounds like that hurts a lot, okay? So I listened to Animal Farm, the audiobook of Animal Farm. Okay, I can't read during work, but I can listen to an audiobook when I'm entering data. So that's what I did. I read 1984 when I was in middle school. It was very thought-provoking, but as a middle schooler, I was like, what is this? And also, like, we read it during advisory. Like, our advisory teacher made us read, like, popcorn read 1984. I later read Fahrenheit 451, but it feels a lot more like real now. The fact that you can draw similarities from these books to life now is kind of scary. Out of the three, I honestly enjoyed Animal Farm the most. It was very interesting. And then I just recently started this big ginormous book that I don't know when I'm gonna finish. It's called These Truths, and it's pretty much an account of the American history, but also everything that they don't bother teaching you in history class. Well, at least I feel like in high school, I don't remember. I just think this gives such a better overall understanding of how we came to be. Oh, if we're talking about history, I also want to point out this is, I don't know if anyone cares about like Asian American history. Also, like, okay, the thing about American history, I feel like it's so complicated because there's so many, like, you can really break it down into, like, you know, African American history, Asian American history, there's like Muslim American history. There's so many parts of American history. They're all American history. It's just like we focus on, you know, like the Plymouth and like how New England came to be and like the founding fathers and stuff. Like, yes, those are very important and stuff, but I also think like there's also a lot of history that doesn't get written down or accounted for as well as a certain aspects of history. So these are books that I read trying to find my identity as a Asian American, and I do want to mention it since we're talking about history. America for Americans. It's a history of xenophobia, and I'm not done with These Truths, but it does kind of point out that this idea of liberty, but we have always contradicted ourselves and our actions since the beginning. I think liberty is a word soaked in blood. Anyways, I have so many thoughts that reading this has, you know, and I will continue reading. But America for Americans, I think it's a good book about xenophobia in America and how it's profitable, and she talks about America as a whole. Erica Lee also wrote The Making of Asian America, and I think these are very essential reads if you care. I don't know. I felt like they were very interesting to me. Driven Out, The Forgotten War Against Chinese Americans is another. The Chinese in America is also another book that you guys could look into if you care. But those were books that I read. And the next book on my list after These Truths is going to be The Warmth of Other Suns. These are two books that Amanda recommended on Instagram. I think it's her @ is Amanda's Mild Takes, and I feel like she's the reason why I'm not going insane, because I feel like there's people that know so much, and I feel that I don't have all the answers, and living through history is very, what I say, frustrating, scary, because like now I'm so aware about politics. When I was younger, I was not. I think that was a privilege, and I don't know, I just care about these things and I want to be more educated, even if that's like the least I can do as of current. So yeah, The Body Keeps Score. I started. I don't know, we'll see when I get around to it. The Kitchen Shrink, I also started. I bought a whole bunch of books by psychiatrists. Refer back to Little Spiral, where I was like, I'm gonna go back to school and I want to do psychiatry and I started this book, didn't even finish this book, and I was like, never mind. It wasn't because of this book, there was a lot of other things, but also like this book is actually pretty old. I think this was written in like 2010. Yes, this was published in 2010. I clearly didn't start. The first 2 chapters, you can see how bad our health system is and how insurance companies really have such a big say on if you get to live, and it's crazy. Anyways, I think I'm gonna try to finish this soon. There's this other book. It's in Chinese, and I think I lost the page. I think I was like halfway done, but it takes so long for me to read something in full 中文, you know, 因为我的中文不太好. So like when I was reading this book, like for the most part, I can read a good 70%. The other words I kind of just guess and just skip over. This is like, if I had to know every single word I was reading, I would never finish this book, because I tried to do that with another Chinese book and I was reading the same first page that whole day. So anyways, I got to like half and then I was like, am I even like, is this even making sense to me? So I went back and like listened to audiobook, because I think my listening comprehension is a lot better than my reading. And after I listened to the audiobooks, yes, I was getting it right, but it just takes me so much more work to read a Chinese book. It's called 天才在左，疯子在右. So it's like, which means like to the left you're a genius and to the right you're crazy. I can't be a translator. There's a thin line between sanity and insanity. This author pretty much interviews a lot of people that are dealing with mental issues in China. Yeah, it's just like their recollection of these interviews, and they were interviewing one person who literally was speaking in words that he could not understand. It was like very difficult terminologies, and talking about a very niche subject that like if you didn't have any like background and you would not know what they're saying, but when they brought in like an actual specialist, like he was still like not making sense. So it's like I don't know, I think it's a really interesting book. That's my update for today. I've just been reading 很多的书. I also got letters from my friends. But I have these souvenirs from Japan that I didn't give away yet, so I am gonna give these away. There's this one. It's a little cat. It's just a little cat. I got both of these at a temple, but different temples. This one was a small temple. It's supposed to bring good luck to your family and like family safety. That's what they explained to me. I don't know, I just thought it was cute. I'm pretty sure this was like handmade. This one I got at another temple, and it's just for wealth and prosperity. Yeah, I just thought it was cute. But also, I didn't realize it was made in China until I bought it and like left Japan. I was like, wait, but this is going to my other friend. Any life updates so far? I don't know if you guys made it to the end like I hopefully when spring comes, we're a little more sane. I'll talk to you guys when I talk to you guys. 好了，拜拜。